Hello, my name is Keith Haswell. I'm a professional astrologer with 38 years experience in the business, and I've done about 40 videos before this one. So this is continuing on with the saga of our lives and the mystery of the universe, the mystery of life, the mystery of astrology, the mystery of reincarnation. And on this video I want to speak to you about the mystery of love. Now this is about activating your love. And I feel so sorry in some ways for everybody who is of the younger generation these days, because in my day, in the 1970s and 1980s, we were able to go into a bookshop and we were able to have a look around and get onto a good set of books and then purchase those books, and we were able to be onto a good source of knowledge and understanding. But in today's technology, there's just so much there available free of charge on the internet. There's so many gurus out there who are supposedly going to enlighten you and lift you into a higher state of understanding and a higher state of consciousness, and all you have to do is to just close your eyes and do a few ohms or something like that, and you'll find that you'll attract all the wealth in the world and everything. They make it so simple, and it appeals to simple minds. And you've got those who are the false gurus who haven't got a clue what they're talking about. They're just on an ego trip, wanting a bunch of people who admire them. And they're off in their tangents of UFOs, and all of the galactic empire is coming in, and you've got to get prepared for it because everybody else is going to die except the chosen ones, and so on and so forth. There's just so much there. And what I want to do for you here is to help you to understand something that's just so potent and so powerful: the nature of love and the origin of love. And you haven't come to this video by accident. You've come here because you've been searching and calling out to something higher than yourself for light on your path. You've perhaps had quite a few crises already in your life, and they're very, very painful. And so you've called out, why? I want an answer to the why of my pain. And so you've found your way here to this video because your higher self wants you to become more of the giant that you truly are. We're all on a wonderful journey in life through hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes. Each time that we live, we add to the stock of our intelligence, our consciousness, our love, and our power. And the origin of all of this is love. Now, I'm going to get into things here which are going to perhaps go way over your head, okay? But the impact of what I'm going to say to you is going to set you off on a path of investigation, and it's going to be a seed that I'm going to sow inside of yourself. I make no apology for going into cosmic themes here in this particular video, because I've given out 40 videos prior to this which are designed to build you up from simple concepts gradually into higher and higher understanding about the nature of reality and your place in that reality. Now, we're all signed up on this journey of reincarnation. We've signed up on higher levels, and we don't remember having signed up, but we're now in this cycle of reincarnations, and there's no way out of it. We all are on the path of growth to become more and more of who we really are. And I've done another video too, which is called Spiritual Inspiration, and that video goes into where we come from, the fact that we've been through the mineral kingdom and we've evolved through the plant kingdom and we've evolved through the animal kingdom and finally into the human kingdom. It's absolutely staggering the number of lifetimes that we've had to get where we are today. 2,000 years ago, when Christ was talking about things, he couldn't talk on cosmic levels. All he could do was talk in parables, and to be able to say that I and the Father are one. And that's a truth, because all of us are one with that God, that Goddess, that all that is. Now, I'm going to reveal to you now the origin of love, and it's absolutely staggering. It's the most incredible truth that I've unveiled in my 38 years of research. Hundreds of thousands of pages of books, thousands of CDs, and heaps and heaps of intensives and so forth that I've attended all over the world, in order to be able to expand my understanding and get to the answers that I've been searching for those 38 years. And so now I'm going to share with you probably the most powerful mystery that I've unfolded, and that is that the origin of the whole universe and the whole of creation is an underlying principle of love. Now, that underlying principle of love will forever remain nameless and will forever remain unknowable. Now, infinite, you try and think about that. Infinite will, infinite power, infinite love, and infinite intelligence, and infinite consciousness. Try and think about that. Infinity can never be experienced. It can only be conceptualized. So the underlying principle of love will forever remain nameless and will forever remain unknowable. Now, in order to be able to experience itself as magnificence, it could understand itself conceptually as magnificence, but in order to be able to experience itself as magnificence, it had to create something that was less than magnificence, so that from that position of less than magnificence, it could look back upon itself and experience magnificence. And so what that had to do, that infinite principle of love, now you think about it for a moment before I do reveal this secret to you. This underlying principle of love was a necessary ingredient for any existence at all. And the only alternative to this underlying principle of infinite love, infinite power, infinite will, infinite consciousness, and infinite intelligence and creativity was non-existence. And non-existence would neither be loving nor would it be intelligent. So this was a necessary thing for anything to exist. But it could not know itself except from something that was less than itself, because the infinite can never be experienced. Try and get your head around that for a moment. Try and think, how could you possibly experience the infinite? Whatever you were experiencing at the moment would always have something that was missing, because the infinite is never ending. And so therefore it's according to set theory that infinity can never be experienced. It can only be conceptualized. So the infinite underlying principle of love, in its infinite intelligence and in its infinite understanding and infinite consciousness and infinite creativity and infinite will and infinite power, created differentiations of itself. The first differentiation of itself was the goddess. Now, it's the nature of the goddess, who embodies the principle of love, to not do it alone, to not create everything alone. So she created God, and together they have created all that is. Now you might ask yourself the question that's posited in the Bible, in the beginning, well, when did this happen? Well, the fact of the matter is that it didn't happen in time. It's always been. And so God and Goddess have always been there. And they've created all that is outside of time and inside of time. And what they have done is they have taken pieces of themselves and they have put them into what's called consciousness units or spirits. And those spirits are unlimited. And one of those spirits is you. It's amazing when you start delving into these things. So that just gives you a little bit of something to light your fire, what you might say, so that you can then say, well, either this guy's a fruitcake and I'm out of here, or this appeals to me intuitively and I'm going to hang around to find out what else he's got to say. And so now I want to go into what love is and look at things from a more practical point of view. Now, courses abound on self-love and loving yourself and love and developing love and all of these sort of things. But when it comes to what love is, they're very skimpy. They go into a lot of detail about the dangers of not loving yourself and not loving, but they don't explain what love is and how to go about developing that love. Now, we're all in life and we have all been given all of the properties, all of the qualities and all of the powers of the divine within ourselves now. Our task in life is to recognize that fact and unfold those powers. And we do so through hundreds and hundreds of lives at the human level, and we all think that the human level is the highest state of self-consciousness. The scientists think they're looking around in the universe for some microbes or some indication of life in the water or something like that on other planets somewhere, and they're not humble enough to say, well, maybe there's life and consciousness within the planets and within the solar systems of the universe. Different forms of consciousness than what we can relate to, but they're only looking for things that can be put under their microscope. Now, we are all creating our own reality and we all have the same raw materials. That is, our attitudes, our beliefs, our thoughts, our feelings, our decisions and our choices. And with these raw materials, we mould them and shape them into the reality that we create, the events and conditions of our life, with three tools: desire, imagination and expectancy. And what we do is we start off with thoughts, and they are in the realm of possibilities. Then we give certain number of those thoughts emotion and desire, and that brings them down into a lesser pool of probabilities. And then through our will and intent, we manifest them into physical events in our life through our desire, imagination and expectancy into actualities, a lesser pool of actualities. So it's the strongest ones that become actualities, the strongest probabilities that become actualities. So we are thinking all the time. And it's important for us to understand that we are creating our own reality. Now there's 4 reasons why loving yourself is so vitally important. First of all, loving yourself is the ultimate technique. If you could totally love yourself, then you wouldn't need to go through a process of education and to read books and to watch videos and to listen to CDs. You could learn everything that you needed to learn from yourself. But the fact of the matter is that you don't love yourself. None of us love ourselves totally. And so therefore we have to create educational institutions, and we have to go through those educational institutions and expand our understanding and expand our consciousness that way. Now all of us are programming. All of us are programming our reality all the time. We do it mostly subconsciously. We're not aware of the fact that all of the events and conditions of our life are being created by ourselves, by our habitual habit patterns of thinking and feeling, that they are the raw materials that create our reality. The object and the exercise, the object of the exercise is to be able to love ourselves totally so that our programming creates miracles in our life. A miracle is defined as when our programming turns out better than expected. But all of us are doing programming. All of us are creating our reality. Most of us are doing it subconsciously, without much awareness at all. We think that we can get away with our negative thinking and our negative emotions and our negative feelings. But every single thing has impact upon the reality that you're creating through the power of your mind and your emotions, those raw materials, attitudes, beliefs, thoughts, feelings, decisions and choices, and your desire, your imagination and your expectancy. Now the second reason why loving yourself is so important is because it's the only lasting antidote to your negative ego. All of us have an ego. It's an aspect of our personality, and it's designed and created with the idea in mind of delivering to us what it observes in our reality. In other words, it's like the mailman. It sits on the doorway of our observations and is supposed to bring to us information about what it observes, leaving us then to determine through the use of our intelligence and our knowledge and our wisdom and our understanding and our consciousness, what does that mean? What's the context of those events and conditions. But we have been very lazy in our lives, in many, many lifetimes. We've been very lazy. And we've said to the ego, oh, don't bother me with that. You do what you want with it. You make the decisions and you make the choices. I'm just busy. I can't cope with that sort of responsibility. So you do what you like with it. And so it gets used to making those decisions and having that power over you. And for example, it comes and says, someone just ran into your car. And they ran into your car because they're jealous of you. They're jealous of your high income and they're jealous of your success in life. And instead of just leaving you with that information, someone ran into your car, they've then interpreted the context and the meaning of those events and conditions for you. And they've got used to that power and watching you jump. And so we all have these negativities inside of ourselves of worry and fear and anxiety and doubt and insecurities and low self-esteem and problems with our self-image and martyrhood and domination and manipulation and control and self-abnegation, self-punishment, self-sabotage. And we've all got these addictive habit patterns of addiction to food that's not good for us, addiction to alcohol, addiction to cigarettes, addiction to drugs, addiction to sex, addiction to overindulgence in the social side of life. We've all got these addictions that we are enamoured with that are all part and parcel of the negative ego. So the only thing that is the total lasting antidote to your negative ego is to love yourself. The third reason why love is so important is because all of us are on a journey in life and we start off in each lifetime as an infant. The body then pushes us on into our childhood from 2 years of age to 12 years of age, our childhood. And it gets pretty comfy there. We get accustomed to manipulating our parents by dropping things and acting in a certain way and getting our own way by crying and putting on tantrums. And we learn how to manipulate our parents and to dominate and control people, and we don't have much responsibility there, and it's very, very comfy there. But our body pushes us on into puberty, into our adolescence. And we're screaming as we get pushed into this adolescence, and there's all of these hormones bursting inside of ourselves, and our sex drive is activated, and we've got all sorts of things going on, and our skin is breaking out through all the crummy food that we stuff into ourselves and the activities that we get involved in. And the adolescent stage, we certainly don't want to stay there because it's just chaos. And the body pushes us on and pushes us on, and we're working our way towards adulthood. But there's so many who don't want to go into adulthood because they don't want to take the responsibility that adulthood means. Adulthood is a synergy. A synergy is a whole that is greater than the sum of the parts. Explain a synergy in a way that you can relate to it. We take a cylindrical tube, a plastic tube, and inside there we have 2 batteries, 2 or 3 batteries, And in the top we have a cap with a light bulb and a mirror inside it, and that closes on, and we have a switch. And when we push that switch, out of it comes light. Light is a synergy, a whole that is greater than the sum of the parts. So adulthood is a synergy which is a whole that is greater than the sum of the parts. It's a synergy of a free child, a curious adolescent, and a nurturing parent. And alchemically, out of that mix comes the adult. But something happens along the way many times with the nurturing parent not there perhaps. And we want to cling to our childhood, or we want to cling to our adolescence. We don't want to move into our adulthood and take the responsibilities of adulthood. And there's plenty of 40-year-old adolescents out there, and you know of some of them. So love is the alchemy that produces adulthood. The fourth reason why love of self is so important is because you have an urge to know that peace of God that is within you. You have a piece of God and Goddess inside of yourself. That peace is your higher self. You have an urge and a desire within yourself to know yourself. And that means knowing your higher self ultimately. And the only thread between you and God, Goddess, all that is love. So that's the fourth reason. So let's just recap now on those 4 points. The first reason why love is so important is because it's the ultimate technique. If you learnt to love yourself totally and could love yourself totally, you would not need all of the educational institutions. You would be able to learn everything from yourself. The second reason is it's the only lasting antidote to the negative ego, who has its sole goal to destroy you, so that it can maintain its control and manipulation of you. It's not equipped with the intelligence that you have to be able to cope with that, so all it can do is lie to you, and the negative ego is dumb. But we fall for it because we don't want to take responsibility. The third reason is that we are moving along in life through our infancy, childhood, adolescence, and into our adulthood, and ultimately into our spiritual adulthood, and to jump off the path of ordinary evolution onto the path of hastened evolution called initiation. And the fourth reason is that you have a strong urge inside of yourself and a need to know that piece of God and Goddess that is within you, that higher self. And love is the only thread that connects you to that higher self. The question now arises, why, with all of this understanding here, why haven't you learnt to love yourself totally? The reason why is that you were never taught. In fact, you were taught not to love yourself. You were never taught. What did you learn? You weren't learned or taught how to love or what love was. At best, you might have got a talk from Dad saying, "Son, One day you're going to fall in love and meet a girl and fall in love, and you better know about VD. Or, if you were a girl, darling, someday you're going to meet a young man and you're going to fall in love. And be careful, don't give him what he wants or he'll think you're a tramp. Learn about love? You were supposed to learn it from observation and by osmosis. And what did you observe from your parents and from others and from aunts and uncles? And what did you observe? You observed love is being used. Love is being a victim. Love is being a martyr, a rug for someone to walk upon. Love is being dominated, manipulated and controlled. Love is who's got the upper hand here, who's got the power, who's in control. Love was pain. Love was anything but what it really is. And so we learn these things by our observations, and we don't know how to love ourselves, and we don't know what love is. So let's now look at what love is. So not only were you not taught how to love yourself and what love was, you were actively discouraged from loving yourself. What do you mean, love yourself? Isn't my love good enough? You are taught by the church and religions of the world. Don't worry about loving yourself, just love God. Don't worry about loving yourself, just love others. And so it comes to you from a variety of sources and a variety of messages that it's selfish to love yourself. And so let's now look at what love is. First of all, love is 7 states of doing in order to provide 7 states of being. There's 7 things to do, each to provide 7 states of being. So it's 7 states of doing and 7 states of being to produce. So therefore, if you want to know how to love yourself and to love others, you've got 49 choices, 49 ways of loving. The first thing to do is to give of yourself, in order to provide security, a sense of security in yourself or in another. To give in order to provide a sense of pleasure in yourself or in another. To give to provide honesty and vulnerability. To give to provide trust. To give to provide intimacy and caring. To give to produce a reduced sense of loss. To give to produce a state of knowing and being known. So they're the 7 things that you want to produce from your giving. Now you can see a correlation here with the states of being with the houses of the horoscope. Giving to produce security is connected with the second house of the horoscope. To produce pleasure is also connected with the second house. You buy things to produce pleasure. Honesty and vulnerability is associated with the third house of the horoscope. In your communication, when you're honest to those that are close to you, in your communication, you produce vulnerability. Trust, giving to produce trust, is associated with the fourth house of the horoscope, the home environment. The home environment must be the ultimate place of trust. Giving to produce intimacy and caring, associated with the fifth house of the horoscope. Intimacy, sexual expression, caring for children, intimacy and closeness, romantic attachments, and the social side of your life, getting close to people, intimacy and caring. Giving to produce a reduced sense of loss, associated with the sixth house of the horoscope. A sense of loss comes if your job is insecure and if your health is insecure. So giving to produce a reduced sense of loss. And lastly, giving to produce a state of knowing or being known, connected with the seventh house of the horoscope, with your spouse, your partner, the ultimate close one, to produce that state of knowing and of being known. The second thing that you have to do in order to be able to produce these states is to respond, to be responsible. Responding must be something that happens in the moment, and it must be responding from the position of the now. You can't respond and be responsible if you're stuck in the past as the child or the adolescent, or stuck in the future of the dreamy as adolescent. So you are responding and being responsible in order to produce a sense of security, a sense of pleasure, honesty and vulnerability, trust, intimacy and caring, a reduced sense of loss, and knowing or being known. So you are being responsible to produce those 7 states of being. The third thing to do is respect. Respect is honouring your emotional nature. So respecting yourself and expressing your emotions and producing respect in other people by the honesty and the passion and integrity of the expression of your emotions. This is how I feel. And so to respect in order to produce a sense of security, to respect yourself and others in order to produce pleasure, to respect in order to produce honesty and vulnerability, respect to produce trust, respect to produce intimacy and caring, respect to produce a reduced sense of loss, and respect to produce a state of knowing and being known. Now the fourth thing to do is to know yourself or to know another. This is an act of doing, to know somebody and to know yourself. To produce each one of those 7 states of being. which I won't repeat every time. Now, the will to know yourself and to know another is so strong, the urge to know yourself and to know another is so strong that you will either know that person or know yourself through love, or if you don't know yourself through love and know another through love, you will know yourself and another through pain, through the infliction of pain upon self and other. The fifth thing to do is to express humility, to be humble. Being humble doesn't mean making yourself a rug for someone to walk on. Being humble means to accept that just because it's been that way in the past, it doesn't have to go that way again. It can go a different way. To be in the moment and to be able to say that it can turn out better in the future and in the now than what it has in the past. You can only once again produce that state of doing and that state of being if you are in the moment and not in the past. Not dwelling on what happened and it always went that way in the past, so therefore it must go that way again. To accept that each circumstance can be brand new. The sixth thing to do is to have the courage to commit. To commit to yourself and to commit to another. To make that commitment in order to produce that sense of security, that state of pleasure, to produce that honesty and vulnerability, to commit to produce trust, to commit to produce intimacy and caring, to make a commitment to produce in yourself and another a reduced sense of loss or a reduced fear of loss, to commit and make a commitment to another or to yourself in order to produce a state of knowing or being known. So having the courage to commit and to make a commitment is very, very important in the expression of love. The final thing to do in order to produce love of yourself or another is to care. To be caring in order to produce those 7 states. To genuinely care for the welfare of yourself, you will always do what is best for you. To genuinely care about the welfare of another, you will always do what is best for another. And what is best for you is always the best for another, because that is honouring your emotional nature and producing honesty and vulnerability. So that delineates the 7 things to do in order to provide those 7 states of being. That gives you an idea of what love is, so that you can now study that, reflect upon that, and develop those principles and values within yourself of integrity, trust, vulnerability, caring, giving, sharing, and loving in intimacy, and providing to others a reduced sense of loss, a reduced fear of loss. And so this is what we all need to do, is to be able to develop these capabilities within ourselves, and we do so through hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes. Now, that underlying principle of love, just reflect for a moment upon that underlying principle of love. It's infinite love, infinite intelligence, and infinite power. But if you know anything about set theory, you know that you can never experience infinity from within that set. It's like, to use one word, it's like saying that infinite love, infinite power, and infinite intelligence is magnificence. That underlying principle of love could never know itself as magnificence from within that state of being, that state of infinity, infinite love. Think about that. How can that ever be experienced? It cannot be experienced. It can only be conceptualized. And so therefore, in order to experience itself as magnificence, it had to produce aspects of itself, fragments of itself, differentiations of itself that were less than the total, less than magnificence. And then from a position of outside of that set, be able to observe itself through those differentiations as magnificence. It was a necessary principle there. It will forever remain nameless. It will forever remain unknowable, even by the differentiations of itself, even by God and Goddess. God and Goddess are still becoming more of the infinite, that underlying principle of love. And that is just a wonderful thing to think about, because it would be terrible to think that God and Goddess were never going to be able to grow and reach and stretch and become more of who they really are. Infinity can never be experienced. It can only be conceptualized. Now that might be a little bit of too much bigness, but the first differentiation of that underlying principle of love was the Goddess. She didn't want to do it all alone and create it all alone, and so she created God. And together they have created all that is. And they have created you as a piece of themselves, a differentiated piece of themselves. And that piece of God and that piece of Goddess that is within you is your higher self. And you are forever becoming more of your higher self for eternity. Just as it is forever becoming more of God, Goddess, all that is. Just as they are forever becoming more of the underlying principle of love. So everybody is growing, everybody is reaching, everybody is stretching to become more of who they really are. And God and Goddess, with that massive state of intelligence and massive state of consciousness that they have, are all that is in the visible universe and the invisible universe. They are all that is. And yet they are able to be conscious in your reality, in your individualized space-time rule set. Totally, 100%. because the nature of the soul, the nature of consciousness, is that it's everywhere at once. Our task as personalities is to recognize that fact and unfold. And it takes eternity to unfold those powers, to unfold that state of consciousness. So coming home is an eternal journey. That's why I called my book, my second book, Coming Home, an Eternal Journey. You never get home. Can you imagine what it would be like if you eventually get home to some heaven or some place where, here's God and Goddess, they're waiting for you. Oh, at last, you're home. Well, isn't that fantastic? Now you can't become anything more. You can't grow and reach and stretch to become more of who you really are. That's the end of the line. Pretty boring when you think about it, no matter what state of consciousness that is. The nature of the spirit is the urge to become more of who it really is. That's what freedom really is and what freedom really means. So I don't mean to overwhelm you with too much bigness here in this video, but this underlying principle of love is just absolutely amazing, but it will forever remain nameless and it will forever remain unknowable, even by God and Goddess. Now, we couldn't comprehend this 2,000 years ago when Christ spoke through the body of Jesus and said to his disciples that we are made in the image of God. What does that mean? It means that we have all of the properties, all of the qualities, and all of the powers of God inside of ourselves now. Our task is to recognize that fact and unfold those powers. So when you look at the things that Christ said 2,000 years ago to the assembled multitudes, it all makes more sense. That the Father and I are one. We are all one. The human family is all one. Because in the realm of the soul, there's one soul, but many differentiations or expressions of that soul. But in that higher dimension, we as a human family are all one. Look, it's wonderful when you poke your head into the things that I've been able to be fortunate enough to learn. And where do I get this knowledge? I get this knowledge from my teachers on higher dimensions. So I urge you to subscribe to my videos, to enroll in my intensives, and to reach and stretch and become more of who you really are, and to realise that humanity has not been left alone for the last 2,000 years. God and Goddess have urged those of us who have developed a state of consciousness where we're capable to be able to break down massive concepts into something that's understandable, to come into life time after time after time, and to help others to become more of the giants that you truly are. So yes, there is a new teaching. There is a new understanding. It's a very exciting time to be alive. And I urge you to reach and stretch and bend every effort of the will to become more of who you really are, and through an intake of knowledge to expand your consciousness so that the things that I talk about are not just conceptualizations but experiences, so that you can learn through the science of meditation and the practice of meditation over a long period of time to be able to work your way into these higher dimensions, and to be able to link up with your higher self, to be able to link up with your soul and spirit, to be able to link up with inner beings, inner friends, who love you and know your name, who've moved beyond the human level altogether. And they care about you. So I urge you to think about what I've spoken about here and to see if that reflects the truth of what your being is. That yes, there's a song there that what the world needs now is love. And we all need to have a greater sense of security. We all need to have the capability of experiencing pleasure. We all need to be honest and vulnerable. We all need to have a sense of trust. We all need to be able to express intimacy and caring. We all need to have a reduced fear of loss. And we all need to be known and to know someone else. If we don't do it through love, we will do it through pain. So I'll be making a lot more videos for you on self-punishment and self-image and ridding yourself of the negative ego and all other methods of ways of growing and reaching and stretching, and meditations are available through my intensives. So I urge you to subscribe to my videos so that each new one that comes out you will receive it, and to get stuck into having your horoscope done by me, and to get stuck into my intensives and understanding more of who you really are and unfolding that goodness, truth and beauty that is there within yourself, unfolding your power, strength and talent. So I thank you for this opportunity to share this time with you and to share these concepts and these understandings with you. And I look forward to working further with you should you decide to have your horoscope done or enroll in my intensives. Thank you.